Well, looks like I'm being promoted from angry journalists lying about me on Twitter to a different journalist libeling me in the press.
Achievement unlocked.
The Daily Dot, a very far-left online publication, put out an article recently titled "Alt-Right Gamers Are Lying to You on YouTube." The bulk of the article is about a video created by Hypebreak, a channel run by Ian Miles Chong and Andrew Perez. In the video, they talk about a couple of controversies where various game studios and the site GOG tweeted out problematic jokes, which led to a few employees of these companies being doxxed and harassed. And the game journalists not only helped stir up the fervor, but they didn't speak out against the harassment. And that the Ultra SJW forum, Reset Era, helped spread the dox. And this is all according to them. I haven't bothered to look into any of this myself. Now, as to why a publication would decide to go after a YouTube video that has a little under 8,000 views in order to protect an Ultra SJW internet forum most people have never heard of is beyond me. But then again, these are the people who published an article criticizing Plinkett's The Last Jedi review for being problematic.
Legit nerd from the streets, am I right?
So I guess this is just the world we live in now. The Dot article runs defense for Reset Era by playing the increasingly common game of what's in a dox.
It is no hand, no foot, no arm.
Where we get bogged down in this discussion of if you find public but not well-known information about someone and then make it widely available to a lot of people who you know will harass and try to get that person fired, is it a dox?
Good question.
But I don't care!
Honestly, right now I don't have much to say on this issue, other than that the Dot's defense seems rather shallow. Now those of you who watch my videos and follow me on Twitter may be wondering how the hell did I get dragged into this, as I haven't made any comment on the issue. Well, there's been a continuing trend by game journalists and illiberal types to relate every possible thing they don't like back to Gamergate. I bet you didn't know that Gamergate is both responsible for getting Donald Trump elected and for creating the alt-right.
Before white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and white nationalists marched in Charlottesville, Virginia in August, they were organizing behind a computer screen. Her study is based on Gamergate, a movement that began with intimidating and harassing female video game journalists under the guise of fairness in video game journalism. The harassment quickly gained traction. It helped catalyze the alt-right movement, which secured power and prominence during the 2016 election cycle.
When you were studying Gamergate and you were really looking
that's kind of small.
They use, it's impossible not to see the same techniques being used by Trump supporters.
Yes, who could have guessed that 4 years later it would be the SJW types desperately trying to revive Gamergate so that they can use it as a catch-all boogeyman. And wouldn't you know it, but what appears at the top of most people's YouTube search results if you type in Gamergate? Something that even popped up in the ridiculous AIN report. A video by yours truly. There's a trend here. Far-right figures like Chong regularly turn to YouTube to create misleading and manipulative videos filled with dog whistles, intended to rile up a far-right crowd. Chong isn't alone there, and the idea itself began in gaming. So that's the setup. I am a spooky far-right figure, just like Ian Miles Chong, the rare and dreaded Asian white supremacist.
No, shh, he is legend.
Gamergate turned into a breeding ground for right-leaning YouTubers. Carl, Sargon of Akkad, Benjamin, one of Gamergate's most popular advocates, published videos defending Gamergate and claiming the gaming industry is creating propaganda against the hashtag, which they were. Sargon quickly jettisoned further and further into the right, and he's since moved on to videos arguing talking points like, Brett Kavanaugh did nothing wrong. Another popular Gamergate video essayist, PSA Sitch, began by explaining Gamergate and has since moved on to claiming trans people are mentally ill and playing pretend. First of all, thanks for the free publicity. But you know, I just wish you hadn't libeled me. You know, it's just a minor issue. Of course, far in line with the last video, the author of this article never contacted me prior to publishing this and hasn't responded to my tweet about it, only to tell a third party that they're not interested in talking to me. So, you know, journalism. Guess I'm making a video. and has since moved on to claiming trans people are mentally ill and playing pretend. Well, that's what we in the business like to call
Lies! The filthy earth boy lies!
I never said that trans people are mentally ill and playing pretend. The video Anna linked is a response I made to everyone's favorite Riley Dennis.
Today we're talking about how all of the characters in the new Super Mario Party game are queer.
Now it's important for me to point out that Anna says trans people, not people with gender dysphoria. How adorable. It's not like I made a whole video about this exact subject. Allow me to alleviate some confusion. Transgender is not the politically correct way of saying gender dysphoria. So this leaves us with two possibilities. Anna, a LGBT correspondent for the Daily Dot, doesn't understand the difference between gender dysphoria and transgender. Which, if that's the case, I have a video for you to watch. For some reason, you feel the overwhelming desire to pigeonhole your identity into a tight little box. Be my fucking guest. But stop trying to hitch yourselves to gender dysphoria, because it's just confusing the shit out of everyone. Or Anna does know the difference and is just being dishonest. Now, if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably the latter. Annie here probably rationalizing the deception by assuming my video on gender dysphoria are really secret dog whistles for transphobia.
Dun dun.
Now in the video she linked, I explained that gender dysphoria is not the same thing as being transgender, and that gender dysphoria is categorized as a mental disorder according to the DSM-5.
Problem with this is that technically gender dysphoria is not classified as a disorder anymore.
Wait!
Wrong! It's still in the DSM-5, and I not only talk about how gender dysphoria makes sense to be labeled as such under our current classification system, but that removing that classification would actually cause harm to those who have gender dysphoria. The medical community only provides these treatment options because of the dysphoria. If you remove the dysphoria element from all this, you're removing the medical reason to get treatment. But of course, no one reading the article would possibly be able to understand that from what the author wrote. No, the author purposely frames me as some sort of hateful transphobe, and that I'm using mental disorder as some sort of glib insult, which of course is completely untrue, as I said to her in my polite tweet. Another implication in the article is that I'm being glib and mocking transgender people who have gender dysphoria by calling them mentally ill. This couldn't be further from the truth. I fully believe and support the statement made here by the APA from this slide in my video. Mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. It is a medical problem just like heart disease or diabetes. Which leaves us with the playing pretend line. Now, I didn't remember saying anything like that, so I rewatched the video to find it at the end. Yes, the playing pretend line was about people like Riley pretending that gender dysphoria is not a mental illness. So yeah, Riley, I get it. It sucks. No one wants to be told they have a mental illness. And yes, assholes will use that to insult you, but guess what? That's just life.
Hello, Ed boys! Many doors, yeah?
As Jordan Peterson always likes to point out, the way you prepare yourself to overcome demons and dragons is to strengthen yourself. To fight smaller battles that condition yourself to fight the big battles. You know, the same way you condition your body when you exercise? You start small and work up. Hiding from the world and trying to create a fake safe bubble around yourself only makes you weaker and more fragile. And hey, I wish this wasn't the case, Riley. I wish we lived in the Star Trek Utopia world, where they could wave a fucking thing in front of you and fix 99.9% of medical problems. But we don't live in that world yet, Riley, and we're never gonna get there by playing pretend. Of course, Anna's context in the article implies I'm saying that trans people are playing pretend in regards to having gender dysphoria in the first place, which I never said and don't believe. So that's a flat out lie! The delicious ironic cherry on top of this sundae of lies is this line at the top of the article, where she accuses Ian and the other people named in the article as regularly relying on manipulative claims to win over unsuspecting viewers. Which is exactly what Anna has done with this article. Or right under the part where she lies about me, and she says, while the personalities around these videos vary, the format remains the same. Cherry-picking the truth. Call your enemies manipulative ideologues hell-bent on ruining the world, and create an us versus them mentality that convinces viewers to keep watching for the next happening.
Oh my.
You're not throwing stones in a glass house. No, you're throwing stones in a glass fucking skyscraper. I guess it should be rather telling when we see that Anna used to work for a publication called Bitch.
That's cool, I'm taking it back.
Lastly, including me in an article labeled Alt-Right Gamers on YouTube implies that I'm alt-right. Which of course, a simple perusing of my videos will show that's a rather absurd claim to make.
Listen, anything that the
Now, according to a third party, Anna has refused to discuss the issue with me directly, which means that Daily Dot not only engages in fake news, but refuses to communicate with the subject of one of their articles. So let's all applaud the Daily Dot for continuing the degradation of the discourse and the slow death of journalism.
Right? Homeless man?